Hi everyone and welcome to a new episode of TechTalk Dudes. As you may know, my name is Pim Jacobs and I'm here with my partner in crime, Ronnie de Jong. And as usual, normally we talk about Defender solutions, security solutions, or my favorite topic, identity solutions, things in Microsoft Entra. But as you may know as well, they should all be connected to a centralized SIEM solution, like, for example, Microsoft Sentinel, for analyzation of your security-related events and all those kinds of things. And when we talk about Microsoft Sentinel, we talk about entities. Isn't that right, Ronnie?
Hey, Pim, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Yeah, that's true. You mentioned Sentinel. Sentinel is a SIEM solution, could be part of your security operations. And yeah, when we're talking about incidents, incident always contains entities. And indeed, entities are actually artifacts where an event of an alert is happening. And yeah, the entities in Sentinel gives you also insights what's going on, what is happening, what incidents or alerts are associated to it, and that's something which is already quite long available in Sentinel. However, today I'd like to zoom in two more features specific as part of entity behavior. And these are custom entity activities and the enrichment. So apart from the security monitoring, you might have also activities within your environment which are not necessarily harmful or caused by bad actors, but just an activity which is regular. The only thing you want sometimes to keep track on it when it comes to group membership changes or a security group which is associated with a particular line of business application. And that's actually what custom entity activities gives you more insights from the viewpoint of an entity. And in that case, entities contains different types, like accounts, like hosts, like IPs, like URLs, Azure resources, file hashes, mailboxes. So there's so many entities in Sentinel, and yeah, that's actually what I'd like to cover today. Yeah.
Okay. And perhaps it's good to show us how this works within the Azure portal.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. I can. So let me share my screen. So now I'm showing the Sentinel portal interface. And if you see here in the left-hand side in the navigation pane, you will see here the entity behavior. And what I mentioned, this is already available for quite time, but there are a few options added. And the accounts view or the host view are already there, but new recently introduced are IPs and Azure resources. And you see the conversion where you have the Microsoft XDR, but in here with Sentinel, we also have the Azure resources through Defender for Cloud, which we can add here. And before we continue, entities are part of incidents, but another important aspect is that entities are also being used in analytic rules, and analytic rules are used for automation. Having the use cases, and that's also based on entities. And within that, we can also do entity mapping. So the definition of an account could be an Azure AD user ID or an account name. And they are the same. And we also make a distinction between strong identifiers or weak identifiers. So an Azure AD or an Entra ID user ID, that's a strong identifier. Or a name plus an UPN suffix is also a strong identifier. Why? Because it's unique. When we're talking about a host name can exist in contoso.com, but could be also existing in lightware.com. And the same with the host name. So those latter are the weak identifiers, but the identifiers are used to do identity mapping. So that is a little bit technical background. Before we are going into the entity and the custom activities, just making sure we have the fundamentals in place. As you can see here, I've do data sources where we can look up the entities from an identity perspective. You'll see here Microsoft Entra ID, Active Directory. The latter is also supported if you have MDI in place, making sure that your on-premise identities are synchronized, at least the information. And secondly, and that's the bottom side, is that you have also the audit logs, Azure activity logs, which also keeping track of the activities from your entities. And an important thing here to mention is the security events. And that's actually the integration with your virtual machines, for example. That can be on-premise service or a service in Azure. Important thing to mention is to capture these security events that the Azure Management Agent or the traditional legacy MMA agent is connected to the Sentinel workspace. Only then you will get the activities logged in there.
So just as a
sorry?
question, those servers don't necessarily need to be onboarded with Azure Arc.
No, for those which are in Azure, they are not. And for on-premise, yeah, it's from a management perspective, Azure Arc could be beneficial, but you need to somehow get your monitoring agent deployed and active and assigned to your workspace. That can through Azure Arc, but that can be also through your other management solutions.
Okay.
So now we have configured it properly. We can investigate our entities. So here you can see the accounts, for example, and I can look them up. So in this case, let's go in for Simon Templar, which is an account. And this is a hybrid account. It's a synced account, sourced from on-premise and also existing in Entra ID. And what you see here is the timeline of the activities. Here you see the activities and also the alerts associated to this particular entity, which is a user account. Here you'll see some details, the group memberships also. That's why you need the MDI integration here to get this metadata of this particular entity. And I'm zooming in on an identity because that should resonate to you. You should be exciting when it comes to identities and yeah, the whole shebang. But as a matter of fact, you see here an action, an activity, and I clicking on it here, and the user was added to a domain privilege group. This could be a usual behavior, which is now being flagged, and that is done by configuring custom activities. So what you see here, that's actually in preview. Here you can shape and by starting templates to flag an activity for a particular entity. So you can see here I already added some of those out-of-the-box templates, but I can also, here for example, account deletion. I can create an activity, making sure that I'm walking through the wizard. Well, this is predefined. I can enable it. You can also filter it, whether or not it's domain joined. And it can be also applicable to on-premise, or it could be also to other systems like Azure. Here you will see the query. And I can also check up front the query. Well, in this case, I didn't prepare a deletion, but then you can see if the query is valid. The ladder, you will see also the dynamic rule which will be presented when this query is hit. So in this case, you will get a notification based on, okay, this account has been deleted.
And you are able to use the separate values based on the available values below.
Exactly, yeah. Then you can make it dynamic. So in this case, I created one. And it's about account deletion. So if I'm going back, and I already prepared an activity for adding a group membership. So in this case, we have a security group. It's a global group. And if I'm adding an account, so in this case, Simon again, or I can also add another account as a user. Yeah, actually, these are just normal. These are not rare things which can be happen. Well, by configuring these activities, these custom activities, I am able to track. So this is utilizing the Azure monitoring agent, and it's being captured in the security event log of the group membership change. So if I'm going back to Simon again, or the one which performed the activity, which is the Azure user, I would expect, and I already prepared here, take some time, that here we have the one. I did that same up front where I changed the membership. So I added
Honey token
account to this particular security group.
Yeah.
So that gives you more context of a particular entity. So here, the right side, you will see also more information on sign in, login, logging off about this particular entity.
And is the entity in this case this particular group or just groups in general?
No, this is that's a good question. This is generic.
The reason why I'm asking, the previous pane about deleting user accounts was just targeted to accounts, but not particular accounts in general.
Yeah, but that's a good one. What I did, I used the default one. So in this case, for a particular group, privilege group, domain admin groups, and let's take this one, which is customized for it. I can change the query here. You can see the results. I can change the query. Now I've made it dynamic. So this is an account SID, account name, and account entity domain. I can also make the SID of the specific group, and then you can trigger activities on particular groups or particular user accounts, which are privileged or whatsoever.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is, if you want to have those events particularly for particular groups, or you want to have an event for one single particular group, you need to edit the activity query to be more specific based on the group SID, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you can define everything, and of course there should be relevant use case or business case. So that was the first thing, to give more insights about activities for entities, and in particular on identities. And another thing I'd like to show you, Pim, which is new, is the integration with third party. This is more related to another entity type like IPs. You have the threat intelligence. With Defender for Threat Intelligence, you have the CTI feeds, which give you context on a particular IP, whether it has a bad reputation, for example. And this can be used also to give more context by using third party. So here you see some vendors we're currently supporting. And in this case, I'm also showing you the integration, how that works, the flow. I already prepared an account for this demo. So I'm going to account. Here you have the API. I'm copying the API key in it, going back to the interface. For this, we created a key vault dedicated for this purpose to make sure that we are storing our API keys securely. Well, this is the name, copying the API key. And hereby, we are able to pull the data, and if we have an IP address, we can check to these third party if there is some additional information to mention about. Yeah, this was already created, so that might cause the error, but getting back. Going back to entity behavior. You will here see some IP addresses. And if I'm zooming in, you will get also detailed information about the geolocation, which is also provided by these third-party integrations. And this is based on threat intel, but this information, this integration gives me more details about the IP addresses known as an entity. So
which are used in your environment, right?
Well, actually, it's because what you see here, as mentioned, it's not only about activities non-release, but also about incidents. So based on an analytics rule fed by threat intelligence, we detected a session. So I have some service where the server was being touched by an IP address for port scanning or other things, or trying to log in through RDP. That will be flagged. And that's because the threat intel says, well, that particular IP address has a malicious score of high. And this information gives me more detail on that particular IP address in addition to the threat intel information.
So what you're basically saying, you're loading in an IP database of an external source into your environment, and the Microsoft monitoring agent combined with the score of the public IP, which is loaded in via in this case the abuse IP DB. That's raising this this incident in your environment because it has scanned. I'm not sure what the error said, but it has scanned this IP within your environment, doing something malicious or something which it shouldn't be doing, right?
Yeah, or potentially a scan not necessarily means that you've been compromised, but at least you will be notified about it, and based on that alert, you could proactively, by using logic apps, you could vet the firewall and block this particular IP address, for example.
Okay.
That's a use case for this. But what I showed you in the letter, that's more giving more context on particular IP addresses being seen in your environment, indeed.
Yeah, it's more adding value and making the relation between them. That's basically what one of the examples you just showed.
Yeah. So you have the threat intel, which is more being used for your detection capabilities. And what I showed you the letter, the third-party integration is giving more context from an entity perspective. Okay, I have so many entities. Give me more information about a particular IP address or host name or account. That's actually what Sentinel provides you, which is now being extended with, for example, the third-party IP information.
Check. Okay. Well, these are all great insights and great new functionalities. Anything we can give back to the people who are watching? Maybe a next step or the things they should do with it, if they already have Microsoft Sentinel, of course.
Well, Sentinel gives you or allows you to modernize your security operations, make sure that a lot of things will be notified. So from the NIST framework, the protect, detect, and response, it eases the detect and response, and it allows you to automate activities which are a result of an incident. And the entity or the custom entity activities gives you even more details about not necessarily bad behavior, but gives you notifications from and insights on what's going on in your environment, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud. So from a security operations perspective, yes, definitely go for Sentinel, but also just from keeping track on activities, on particular membership changes, which you are from an auditing or other perspective interested in, it helps you here.
Okay. Well, thanks, Ronnie, for providing me at least those great insights, and of course for the people, all the people who are watching as well. I learned a few new things today, so that's so thank you for that one.
You're most welcome.
With that being said, I will hand it over to you to wrap things up.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for watching us, and hopefully it was useful. And with that, thank you, and looking forward to have you on the next episode of TechTalk Dudes. And I believe something, Pim, it's about cloud sync, synchronizing groups, not to the cloud, but from the cloud to the on-premise, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. We're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is identity, and then not synchronizing from AD to Entra, but the other way around, particularly groups. So hope to see you next time.
Everybody, take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.